Rhythm is the pulse that gives life to a piece of music. In this video, I'm going to teach you the fundamentals that you need to know to create great rhythms that are going to supercharge the energy of your music making. Let's get into the video. Hey everyone, Rex here from the Maze Music Academy, where I help musicians like you level up your music making so you can succeed in your music career. Welcome to part 5 of my series on the 5 essential elements of music, where we're going to talk about the 4th element, which is rhythm. Now, if you haven't seen the previous videos in the series, I recommend that you hit the pause button and go check those out before you go any further. I'm going to put links in the description below for all the videos in the series. So unlike melody and harmony, which deal with pitch in a piece of music, rhythm and the last element, form, actually deal with time in music. And rhythm specifically deals with what I consider to be local level or micro level time events in a piece of music. So probably an even simpler way to say it is rhythm is basically when stuff happens in your piece of music. So, when you hear that beat, that bum, 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 you hear a melody, da 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 dum. All those different little events, all those different individual notes and tones and those beats comprise the rhythm of a piece of music. Now, you'll often hear people talk about music like it's the universal language, and I don't think that's necessarily true for all aspects of music. For example, certain scales and melodies and certain harmonies and even certain instruments in one culture might evoke certain emotions and ideas that are completely different in another culture. But rhythm does seem to be pretty universal across all different genres and styles and cultures of music, because basically the more stuff you have happening, the more rhythm you have, the more energy you have in that music. And the less stuff that's happening, the less rhythm that you have, the more sort of low key and chill the music tends to be. So rhythm really is just when stuff happens in your piece of music. Now, the way that's organized underneath the surface of the rhythm is what we call the time signature, or the beat of the music, which is what you tap your foot to or bob your head to. That's sort of the grid that the rhythm lines up against. And that's not always the case in all music, but in most pop styles, anything you're going to tap your toes to or, kind of bob your head to, that's going to have a beat underneath it that lines up with some kind of time signature. So the difference between rhythm and the beat of your music is that, it's kind of like when you draw on a piece of graph paper. The beat is kind of like the actual grid, the actual squares that you have in the background on that sheet of paper. And then the rhythm is like the actual drawing and the shapes that you're putting on top of that grid. And sometimes those shapes can line up with those lines on that grid. And sometimes they can be more organic and kind of go in between the lines and sort of create more interesting, unique shapes. So when you talk about time signatures, and when you really listen to the beat in most music, it's almost always broken down into groups of 2s or 3s. And when you think about most music, even when you're counting the 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, boots and cats and boots and cats, those kind of common rhythms, even if it's 4 beats, it's still really just 2 groups of 2. Or you can have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, kind of like a waltz, dump, 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 boom, chuck, chuck, boom, chuck, chuck. And really it's those 2s against 3s. You can pretty much build any other time signature, any other beat by combining those in different ways. Now, most music, especially pop music styles, just kind of stay in regular, time signatures, just solid groups of 2s or 3s, bop, 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 bop. They stay pretty symmetrical. Now, in contemporary styles, and this is especially prevalent in movie scores and things like that, you could actually do uneven asymmetrical groups of 2s and 3s to create some interesting time signatures where you have 5 beats or 7 beats, where you have 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 3, different kind of interesting combinations like that, which give it kind of an off-kilter kind of flavor. The Mission Impossible theme is a great example of a theme that's actually written with 5 beats. It's 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4 5. And if you think about that theme, Mission Impossible is all about excitement and being kind of on edge. So if you have that extra beat compared to a normal 4/4 time signature, it really creates that kind of little bit of that extra kind of on the edge of your seat feeling, which really goes along well with those movies. So now the cool thing about the interplay between rhythm and the beat of a piece of music is that sometimes you can have the rhythm line up with the beat, line up with the grid, and that creates a very driving kind of flavor. You hear this a lot in rock music where you have the bum, bum, boom. Or even in orchestral music or scoring, you have all the instruments kind of aligned to that grid to create that really driving momentum in your piece of music. Now, other styles like jazz, for example, they still have a beat, still have that underlying grid, but a lot of the rhythms on top of that actually go against it. You're hitting a lot of off notes, kind of that sneak in before or after the main beat, which create this irregularity that create a lot of nuance, a lot of interest in that piece of music. So on top of this, you also have to consider the rhythmic style, which could be very regular, bop, 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 kind of pushing forward against the beat like that. And then other times it can be very kind of irregular, the bop, bop, ba bop, 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 bop. You know, it can kind of jump all over the place and kind of surprise you. And then you can have speech-like rhythms that are aligned to, you know, how we talk in different languages, which works really well with lyrics and in different styles of music that use voice. And then, of course, you can have music that's arrhythmic, which doesn't have a lot of rhythm. You hear a lot of drones, a lot of long notes. In orchestral scores, you know, you have these lush sort of arrhythmic moments, which are more for scenes of calm. And you're really focusing more on the other elements of music, like the harmony and the melody that really carry the emotion there. And it's not about the energy so much. So that whole spectrum of rhythmic and arrhythmic music and how it aligns with the beat can really give a really unique character to your piece of music. So without getting too deep into it, a lot of styles, especially like jazz or a lot of popular music styles like rock and things like that have sort of a standard instrument makeup, have what's called a rhythm section, which is usually the percussion, which is often a drum set, and you have some kind of bass instrument, and then usually some instrument that can play chords like a keyboard instrument or maybe a rhythm guitar or something like that. And then that group can actually create that beat, create that pulse to your music, which allows other instruments to kind of play over top of that, and it creates the framework for the larger piece of music. And you can use this in classical styles too, using percussion and your bass instruments to kind of set that stage so that the other instruments can have more developed rhythms over top of that. So that's all you really need to know to understand the basics of rhythm. Again, it's really just when stuff happens more at a local level in your piece of music, and it really has a big impact on the energy level in your piece of music. Now, before we get on to the next video, I want to know what rhythms and beats that you like to use in your music or that you like to listen to. Do you prefer more rhythmic music that has a more defined beat, or do you prefer more arrhythmic music that's a little bit more floating? Tell me all about it in the comments below. Thanks for watching. If you're getting value out of this series, smash that like button and consider subscribing for more content just like this. I'll see you in the next video where we're going to talk about the fifth and final essential element of music, form.